In this tutorial, we will make this loose watercolor landscapes starting with some wet on wet washes. I will explain the entire process throughout the video. Hi friends, I am Vanidas Mangathil and let's learn watercolor together. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and press the bell notification. I'll try to create more and more videos with full explanation. So without further ado, let's go into the tutorial. I am using a cold pressed watercolor paper 300 GSM and I am wetting the paper throughout. Alright, so while wetting the paper, I am deliberately leaving some area without wetting it, so that when I create the sky, I wanted some paper whites seen through, and the idea is that those paper whites that I have left will look like some sort of a cloud. Okay, so that is the idea. And once you complete the wetting of the paper, we will do the washing, right? So here I'm using some cerulean blue kind of a color. So the actual color that you use depends upon what you have. Here it is a bright cerulean blue sort of a color, and on top of that I'm also applying some purple sort of a blue. So what I did is with the blue I have added a little bit touch of red so that it becomes purplish, and I'm moving my brush in such a way that these two colors get merged, and the areas that wasn't wet properly, they look like a clouds with some hard edges. So some of these hard edges I am making it as soft so that the clouds become more interesting. Clouds with some edges hard and some edges soft, they look more realistic clouds. As I come down, I am making it slightly lighter blue, and see, at this point where I am applying the blue colors now, I am sort of trying to create a reflection of the sky. So I am not actually going for precise mirror reflection, but I am trying to create some sort of a cloud in the reflection also based on the clouds above, so that they might look like a sort of a reflection. This is some bright green color, so that I am around the horizon, and so that I wanted these to be some sort of a foliages at the horizon. Here I didn't make any drawing as such, so it is all in the mind. So if you want, you can draw and then do this apply these washes for the foliages. But I would suggest you play with your mind and you play with what the watercolors without an actual drawing on it. Let the ideas develop as you do the painting. Okay, so what happens is that you will get some dynamic ideas, and you feel free if you don't make the drawing. It's more fun. I feel that it is more fun, and you have all the freedom to take decisions on the fly, alter your decisions on the fly, and all those things. So here this looks like a bright green, yellowish, warm green, and some sort of a slightly softer, cool green. They look like some different, some distant foliages. And here I'm using sort of a burnt sienna sort of a color, so that they look. I wanted to suggest some piece of land here. So I'm using a little bit of sort of raw sienna color and burnt sienna color. I'm mixing it so that it looks warmer at some places and slightly darker at some other place. And see, I'm just adding a touch of red also in between. So I'm looking for some color variations. Okay, since there is no reference, you can decide on the colors. If you want some slightly different colors, if you want more greenish colors, you can use more green color there. I'm also using a touch of green at some places. So once you make these surroundings, the pieces of land, etc., you will start seeing those bottom the reflection areas will start becoming more realistic. Okay, you can somehow visualize this area, like a cloud, the reflection of the cloud, etc. I am adding some touches of darks so that there is some variation of colors. Okay, now it doesn't have sufficient darks at this point, so things will be more clear as we add more darks. Okay, here I am softening this because see, I don't want too much details for the foreground. Okay, I just want some very simple, very suggestive sort of a scene. I have splashed some water here. If you can see some textures at the bottom, so that is to create some sort of textures in the foreground area. At this point, you can clearly see that there is a sky, there is a land, and there is a reflection, and there are no sufficient darks. And I am waiting for this entire thing to be dark, dry now, because I wanted to create some sharp trees now, and these trees, I want the edges of the trees to be little sharp. Okay, the edges of this tree foliages, I want it to be sharp. And if you want if you want the edges to be sharp, then you have to ensure that the paper or the surface is dry. On a wet paper, you will always get softer edges. You will not get sufficiently sharp edges if the paper is wet. So depending upon whether you need a sharp edge or soft edge, you have to decide whether you need to actually wet the paper, or you can apply the colors on the dry paper depending upon the edges that you need. Okay. If you like these tutorials and if you are finding some value in this, please do subscribe and press the bell notification. Also write your thoughts, your suggestions, your comments in the comment box below. I will try to go through all your comments and I will try to answer to all your questions, and I will also try to consider your suggestions for future videos as much as possible. Okay, now this looks like a sort of foliage, and the plan here is to make a single tree on the left side, and I could have started with the trunk first and then the foliage, but here I went for the idea of the foliage first and the trunk next. For the trunk, I am using some darker colors. Okay, and here I am using a round brush, a soft round brush. Okay, and that round brush, with the round brush, if the round brush has a good tip, you can have both wider brush strokes and thin brush details. Thin details also you can make with the round brush. So whenever you pick up a round brush, pick up something that has a good amount of hairs and a fine tip. The dark tones here suggest some kind of a shadow, and it also hooks the tree firmly on the ground. So if there is no shadow, it won't be convincing enough. Right, now if this reasonably makes sense, I would consider adding some more branches. So I'm actually thinking where more branches can help. Okay, so whenever if you're following along, try to stop at various places and try to think what next, what you would do if you're doing it alone. Okay, so please take the freedom to alter the painting if you're following along. You don't have to paint it exactly like I do. You can see the way I am painting it and my explanations. Try to understand the process and the rationale or the reason behind going for this specific process. Try to understand those things and try to apply them to your version of it. Try to create your version as slightly separate from what I do. That way you can improve, you can make improvements. So there are good amount of branches. I wouldn't say that these branches are the best, but these are reasonably convincing. Okay, some highlights, some darker touches I wanted to do, so I am just thinking of suggesting some sort of some poles or some part of some fences. Okay, since there is no reference, I am just thinking. Okay, you can do, I mean, without any idea you can start painting, or if you are doing from imagination, one approach is that you just start the painting and let it go, and the other approach is you make a drawing on a piece of paper, make a thumbnail and work out the idea and then start the painting process. So it is up to you in whichever way you do. Okay, I think the foreground is reasonably okay now, but I'm not happy with the horizon area. I think we need to enhance it. We need to add more darker touches on the horizon part of it. So I'm wetting it, wetting the horizon, and I will apply some darker tones here. See, this darkening of the horizon, we could have done it before making the tree. Then we would have got more freedom for doing that. Now the tree is kind of blocking me. So it is, the tree is kind of blocking me defining the horizon properly. So since these decisions are dynamic, I went for this particular process. If the darkening of the horizon was thought earlier, I would have done the darkening of the horizon first and then the trees. Once the horizon was fully dry, I would go for the tree. So if you are following along, I suggest you first make the horizon darker and make the reflection for the foliages, and then you make the tree. Now what I am doing is I am trying to suggest some reflection, some mirror reflection of the foliages above. There is a thin white line I have left, that is just for interesting, just for creating some interest. Okay, so this looks like a reasonable reflection. It is not perfect, but I think it is convincing, it is believable. See, we only used a couple of minutes here, so we are trying to think, we are trying to imagine the composition, we are trying to imagine the color choice, make the color choices, and all these things will take some time. So if these things were taken, planned in ahead, like the proper composition, color scheme, etc., we could have done it in a much shorter time, and some of the sequence could have been organized better, like the darkening of the horizon and the reflection of the horizon, and then then defining the trees. Okay, so hope this video was informative to you, useful to you, and if you have any questions or suggestions, please do write them into the comment box below. And finally, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and press the bell notification. Your comments, your likes and your shares will help me to reach this video to a wider audience, and it will also encourage me to create more videos going forward. Thank you very much.